there, welcome back to another show of the Couples Corner, a place where couples connect. I am one of your co-hosts, Katie Lemieux.
And I'm Susan Block, and Katie and I are both licensed marriage and family therapists right here in South Florida, and we're happy to have you tuning in today.
Excellent. And so today we have a very special guest because she's very special to me. I have another business called the K2 Visionaries and the Private Practice Startup, and Dr. Kate Campbell is my business partner over there.
So, AKA BP.
AKA BP. So we're super excited to have her actually as our guest because usually we're interviewing other people in our business.
Yes, it's interesting to be on the flip side today. So thanks for having me, ladies.
Welcome.
Awesome.
We're happy to have you.
And so Kate is a licensed marriage and family therapist, and she is going to be talking to us today and as well as you about how to heal from a betrayal in a relationship or rebuilding trust.
Exactly.
After a betrayal.
How to rebuild trust after a betrayal.
Awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a topic that is needed for so many couples that are going through any form of betrayal, not just infidelity, but any type of betrayal.
Yes.
And so we're really happy to have you today. And you can share with the audience a little bit about how you got started in the profession.
Absolutely, yes. So I originally went to school for psychology, and while I was in my undergrad, I had a professor who was a marriage and family therapist, and she opened my eyes up to the world of relationships and looking at things from a relational perspective. And I really just fell in love with the theories, and that inspired my passion for going to school to become a licensed marriage and family therapist. I ended up getting my PhD as well from Nova Southeastern University. And so I'm really passionate about working with individuals and couples who are looking to develop a more meaningful and satisfying relationship.
Well, that's great. I mean, the fact that you started off doing one thing and then that just kind of transitions into your passion is fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely.
So tell us a little bit about your topic today about rebuilding trust after any form of betrayal.
Yes, so trust is a powerful thing. It can take a lifetime to build and mere seconds to destroy.
Good point.
And so whenever any type of betrayal happens in a relationship, it can be devastating. And there's lots of different types of betrayal. Depending on the context, it's going to depend on how deeply it affects the individual and the relationship, and it can take some time to rebuild from there.
Definitely.
Sometimes people aren't able to rebuild, but I've worked with hundreds of couples who are able to rebuild the relationship and develop an even more satisfying relationship than before the betrayal. Which is a pretty amazing thing to witness.
Right. And Katie and I see that in our practice as well. We specialize in working with couples, and you know, this is a topic that is without guidance, without support, can
100%.
really, you know, go in a different direction. And this is an opportunity for couples to build hope back into the relationship and build a better relationship sometimes than even when it first started.
Absolutely.
So you have some tips to share on how to rebuild trust.
Yes.
And you have an acronym that you wanted to share with the audience?
I do. I actually have an acronym for how to rebuild trust after a betrayal, and that acronym is TRUST. So it's easy to remember, and there's 5 steps.
Okay, so tell us what T stands for.
Yes. So T stands for take responsibility. It's really important for both partners to really take responsibility for their part in what's happened. So making sure that they're not being defensive or not making up excuses or anything like that. They're really genuinely taking responsibility. That's one of the first steps to seeing if the couple is able to really rebuild the relationship and repair things after a betrayal. Because without that step, it's not possible to heal.
Sure.
And I think that's such a good point, and one for the audience to really wrap their head around, that taking responsibility has to happen before you can move forward to any of the other steps.
Sure, and sometimes I think it's hard sometimes for the person who was hurt in it is looking at the responsibility. What we talk about is for the relationship, right?
Absolutely.
Is what's been going on in the relationship that could lead to this.
Yes, sometimes people's needs are neglected, or different things can be happening individually or within the relationship that can contribute to a betrayal happening. And making sure that they're taking responsibility for committing to healing the relationship. Because if one person is not on that page, the other person can't save a relationship.
Right, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
So what's R?
Yes, so R is be reliable to your partner. So making sure that you follow through with what you say you're going to do. Trust is really word plus deed over time. So it's doing what you say you're going to do over time that helps to really rebuild trust. And that can mean, you know, little things day in and day out that you might not even think about. Oh, I'll be home after work tonight around 6:30, and then maybe your partner shows up at 8 o'clock, but never communicated that. You know, sometimes those simple little things during the day can really evoke a strong reaction from your partner, because it ties back to you're not being forthcoming, you're not really telling me, honestly what's going on and what to expect.
Right, and I think sometimes even before the betrayal occurred, that stuff might not be that big of a deal, but when there's a betrayal and there's a breach of trust in a relationship, you need to be consistent in many aspects of your life.
Yes.
And of course, it's always through communication to figure out what the couple's okay with and not okay with.
Exactly.
And I think this is a really good one, the R, be reliable, because a lot of times people who've done the hurting, they really don't know what to do to make those repairs, and they almost feel helpless. So this is an opportunity for them to really take some control over a very uncontrollable situation.
Yes, beautifully said.
So thank you.
What's you?
So tell us about the U.
So you is to really understand your partner's perspective. So making sure that you're really listening to their perspective and hearing their emotions, what they're going through. This is a very difficult and delicate thing, because a lot of times people get reactive and feel like they need to defend themselves, or not really understanding where the partner's coming from. But that's key in being able to understand both sides and to be able to validate the emotional pain and what's going on for each partner. And so that's where couples therapy comes in, where a couples therapist can really help the couple to navigate those difficult conversations.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because a lot of times when we say understanding, couples communicate a lot of times through blame or criticism or judgment, which makes their partner defensive, and a couples therapist really can help a couple break that cycle and teach them new tools. I always tell my couples, relationships are science. And I don't know about you guys, but I was never taught how to be in a relationship or communicate, obviously, until I went to school and learned a lot about couples.
Sure.
And that's where, we can really help people in that aspect.
Absolutely.
Okay, so the S.
S is to really speak openly and honestly. So making sure that you're forthcoming with your partner, you're communicative, you're not hiding anything, not keeping any secrets or anything like that. And that's where the couples therapy can also help partners navigate that process.
Gotcha.
So just keeping the communication lines open, even if the topic is delicate or kind of makes you feel a little uneasy, it's still important to communicate about those things.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
I'm glad you brought that up.
And as you guys are talking, I'm also thinking a lot of times what I've experienced is people are afraid to share the full and honest, complete everything that's been going on, because they're afraid to hurt or injure their partner. But we actually know that the inverse is true. Right?
Yes.
And so speaking openly and honestly, even when you think like, oh, this is going to hurt if I tell them this or whatnot.
Because partners will have a lot of questions after a betrayal happens, and being able to speak openly and honestly about what's happened, you may have a negative reaction from your partner after hearing, but that's a very important process that's a very important part of the process of healing. That's where a couples therapist can really help navigate those difficult conversations. And then also making sure that you're speaking reassurance to your partner. And thinking about what kind of reassurance do they want to hear, because the verbal reassurance is important just as much as the actions are. And so actually that gets into the next one.
Okay, so the T.
Yes, the T, the final T, is for trust-building behaviors. So making sure that you ask your partner, what kind of behaviors do you need to see from me to know that I'm working towards rebuilding the trust? And that's where partners are going to have to give their partner the opportunity to prove that they are capable of rebuilding the trust. So it really takes two for the trust-building behaviors. And it can even be helpful to create a list of what kind of behaviors you want to see happen. And so that way you're on track, and you can be very intentional about the steps that you're taking to rebuild the trust after the betrayal.
So can you maybe give the audience some examples of what might be a trust-building behavior?
What might be a trust-building behavior? Okay, so it might be for someone who, let's talk about an affair. So if someone had an affair with a partner or a colleague of theirs, making sure that they're not doing lunches with that particular colleague, making sure that they're not traveling one-on-one with them, that they make sure if they have any type of interaction with that person, they're communicating that to their partner and letting them know, I ran into so-and-so today, and I just wanted to give you a heads up. Just making sure that you're clear on what the boundaries are for the relationship.
And I think a lot of couples going through that, they almost feel that there's a shift in hierarchy during that time, where it almost feels like a parent-child in a sense. But at that moment, it's really important for them to understand that it's necessary and vital to continue rebuilding.
Yes.
So,
or maybe another trust building behavior might be, an open passwords. So for a bit of time, they have, their partner is able to access their phone, they're able to check their emails, and those sorts of things. So,
no, I mean, these are great suggestions, and I love the acronym TRUST.
Yes.
It's a really great way to help couples that are going through this kind of bullet point what they need to do step by step.
It's an easy way to kind of remember. It's not an easy process, though.
No,
very
definitely
true. Can you
not.
just kind of go over them for our audience again? So T.
Yes. So T, you have take responsibility, and then R is be reliable. U is understand your partner's perspective. S is speak openly and honestly. And then the final T is trust building behaviors. So that's the TRUST acronym.
Awesome.
Yeah, great. So, this is, I think, a topic that so many couples are really struggling with. And it sounds like you specialize in working with couples that are dealing with rebuilding trust. So can you share with the audience how they could reach you?
Yes, so I have a private practice in East Fort Lauderdale called Bayview Therapeutic Services. And I invite you all to contact me. You can check out my website, bayviewtherapy.com or drkatecampbell.com. Those are my two websites. And you'll find my information there. And
you also, I think, mentioned to us before the show that you have something for the audience.
Yes, I do.
If they take a look at your site.
Exactly. I have a giveaway for you all based on our topic here today, how to build trust after a betrayal. And so I actually have a downloadable infographic, which will have the acronym for trust and then all of the details about that. So feel free to check that out on my website, and you'll be able to instantly access that download.
Awesome. Well, we wanted to thank you for coming on. You were awesome. You were a delight. This topic was great. I think you made it so just easily relatable to our audience. And so we thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Couples Corner, a place where couples connect. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook at The Couples Corner South Florida. You'll see a picture of Susan and I. You'll be able to interact with our guests like Kate. We'll post resources, information, the video clips, times and dates will also be up there. So again, I am Katie Lemieux.
And I'm Susan Block, and thank you so much for tuning in today.